All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Saturday, you guys all, and thank you so much for coming in to watch this video. We got approximately, 19 days left until the halving event happens, roughly right around there. We're going to make this pretty quick here. We're just going to take a look at what happened with Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners this past week. We're also going to take a look at Riot, their Corsicana facility. Jason was kind enough to email me some of his, a response to a question that I had on Corsicana as far as how much electricity do they have available, how much do they have in PPA, curtailment, all those things. So he actually sent this email out to me today. So we'll get into that, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So it should be pretty easy there. And as always, this video is a little bit delayed. So if you guys have questions towards the end, obviously keep those towards the end. But if you have any questions towards the end, that is delayed a little bit, and I'll try to get to all your guys' questions at that point. Okay, but let's see here. But as always, you know the drill. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And then corrections will be posted to Discord, YouTube, and Twitter if they happen, right? So I always try to get you guys the most up-to-date data. And let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin really quick, and then we'll get into the miners and everything else. But here's what we got. So here's the screen. Bitcoin right now is at 70,086. It's up a little bit. It was down, obviously, on the day-to-day a little bit. It was down 0.4%. It's up 0.68. We're kind of trading sideways right around this range here, right around 69, 70,000. We'll see how long this continues going forward. We have, obviously, tomorrow, which is Sunday, and then we'll be back in the swing of things on Monday. I believe the markets are open on Monday as well, so we'll see what happens then. But otherwise, we already covered the miners as far as what happened with them on Thursday. So we're not going to get into that. One thing we're going to take a look at really quick is the network hash rate here. This is the latest data that we have on it. This is the 30-day average on it. It's at 596 exahash right now. So we're getting close to 600 exahash. So that's kind of where we're going to end the month with. We started the month out at, let's see here, about 570. Yeah, I think it was 575 or something like that. On the first, yeah, we started at 576 exahash. So definitely we had an increase of about 20 some exahash or so roughly for the month, which is still a pretty good gain here. All right, so that's it. Let's take a look at really quick on Jason and the email that he provided. So this is the full email that he sent me, and he stated in there obviously that this was for a question that I had pertaining to the Corsicana facility, which one of my questions is how much power do they actually have access to, and do they have a PPA in place, and what's going to be their uptime more or less at that facility. So I wanted to say thank you, Jason, for sending this to me. And he allowed me to share this with you guys as well. So I'm going to share it with you guys right now. We'll read over it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it as well. So I wanted to follow up here because I heard your question on a recent video about Riot's power access at Corsicana that I wanted to help with. So this is great. At our new Corsicana facility, we have access up to 1 gigawatt of energy, 24/7 by 365, without any obligations to curtail outside of grid emergency conditions, which are very rare. Without any fixed price blocks of power, a hedge in place, we would expect to voluntarily curtail under these conditions. So he's basically laying out why they might curtail, right? And it's great that they have access to 1 gigawatt. It's great that they're going to be getting that for 365 days a year, 24/7. And then, so here's the two conditions that would be under which they would curtail. Number one, the market price of power is greater than the break-even price to mine. If for the sake of discussion, you say that price is $150 per megawatt, so basically I think that would be 15 cents per kilowatt at that point, right? I think it's 1,000 divided by that, 150, I believe. Current S19 Pro break even, then you would curtail less than 3% of the hours in the year based on spot prices during 2023. These hours typically occur in the summer months. ERCOT has a cheap wholesale power most hours during the year due to high wind and solar penetration. Okay, so that's great there. So we could possibly see them curtailing for about 3% of the time during the year. That would be fantastic because right now what we're seeing in Rockdale is obviously a heck of a lot more curtailment, and they do have a PPA in place, which maybe Rockdale has higher pricing for electricity, could be, right? Since it's a deregulated network there, and they have different regions under that. Okay, let's see, number two stipulation. So this is number two why they might curtail. There is a 4CP alert. 4CP stands for 4 coincident peak, and it's a program that gives substantial savings on transmission costs, on future power bills, and if the operator curtails during the peak periods during the summer months, June, July, August, September. We expect to curtail less than 80 hours a year for 4CP, and many of these hours coincide with high wholesale prices. Not only does this program result in substantial savings on future power bills, but it's also an important part of being a good corporate citizen and demonstrating the value of Bitcoin mining to energy grids. This is part of our strategy and corporate identity. And that's really good there, because when I was mining back several years back from 2017 through 2020, when did we stop? 2022, I think we stopped mining. One of the things that when we were dealing with electricity brokers was they would send us an alert saying, hey, today's going to be basically a 4CP day potentially during the year, and it was usually happening in the summer months. They said if you can curtail at that point or shut off operations for several hours or for even the day, you're going to have better savings going forward. So we try to do that as well. So I completely understand that. And then here, I think he miswrote here. I think what he wanted to say was it is not very often, but he wrote it is very often number 1 and number 2 overlap. So all in, percentage of hours one would be expected to curtail under these conditions is less than 3 to 5% of hours per year, which would be fantastic, right? If they can get that facility running at that percentage rate, that would be huge, and definitely help them out with efficiencies, everything else, because right now the Rockdale facility is not being able to meet those, right? We've seen the curtailments, and sometimes it doesn't look like it makes sense for them to curtail, especially with Bitcoin being much higher in price. But if they're having to pay higher electricity prices after they use up the contract that they have for power available to them, right? That obviously is not a good way. But if they can access all the power that they want with 3 to 5%, not dilution, 3 to 5% curtailment during the year on that facility, that's going to be fantastic. He goes on to say here, with fixed price blocks of power, the amount of hours under condition 1 is mitigated during these curtailment periods and times in condition number 2 into opportunities for power credit generating hours. Fixed price blocks also enable us to participate in ancillary services where we earn cash payments from ERCOT for giving ERCOT the option to curtail us. Okay, so that all makes sense there. We can procure fixed price blocks in the market at any time for various durations and size. ERCOT is fairly liquid market in this sense. Pricing is determined based on the forward market and time period. We strategically layered on fixed price blocks at Rockdale at attractive long-term prices, allowing Riot to monetize the volatility of ERCOT through selling power or mining Bitcoin at fixed prices or a fixed price. We intend to follow the same strategy at Corsicana, which means following the market closely and procuring fixed price blocks when we believe the market presents an attractive risk to reward optionality. Because we can take delivery of the power and utilize it to generate Bitcoin. A hedge can be viewed as a low-cost covered call option that allows us to participate in the upside of ERCOT market volatility. Okay, so that's something that might be looking into obviously here. And then if all power was under fixed price blocks, we would not need to curtail under condition 1 above, but would likely do it as it would be the more financially accretive decision. The decision to curtail then would not typically be on the margin. In other words, the price of power is either way over $150 per megawatt. So 500, 1,000 up to 5,000 per megawatt or under. We think that the barbell distribution continues to increase as more zero variable cost generations built, solar and wind, right? So that's his whole email there. So I greatly appreciate him obviously providing the answer there that I had for it. And based on this, we'll have to obviously see if they can get to the 3 to 5% curtailment at that facility over the year. If they can do that, that's going to be fantastic. But obviously with everything, trust but verify. So we'll obviously take his word here on this, and then we'll have to see how they actually do it in reality, right? But this is right now really good news. So we'll get into you guys' questions if you guys have any at the Q&A session on things. Okay. But again, thank you to Jason for sending this over. This definitely answers my questions that I had on it as far as how much power do they have available to them, and then do they have I forgot the term of it now, but a power contract in place right now or not. It doesn't look like they have one, at least not right now. Okay, so that's it for Riot there. And then getting into Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners here for the past week, how they did. We always look at this chart first. This is the gray bars here are how far the miners are up from their 52-week lows, and then the red bars are how far away the miners are from their 52-week highs. So again, we see here Cleanspark is definitely the top one here, definitely outperformed everybody here by a long margin here. It's up 781% as of Thursday close, right? Obviously, we know that it dipped in the after hours as well. Kind of rebounded, I think it was like at $19 when it did finish trading after hours. And then Mawson's up 255%, Marathon 215, TeraWolf 198, Cypher 192, and Bitcoin's up 181%. So all those miners have done better than Bitcoin. And then we got everybody to the right of that doing worse, with the worst ones here being Hive only up 22% from the 52-week lows here. Core up only 35. Core obviously changed ticker symbols as well. That's why that's down. But before that, Core was the one that was leading the pack here. It was even ahead of Cleanspark. Hut 8 only up 36%. Riot 42%. Right, I think Riot is obviously kind of down in the dumps right now a little bit because of their operations at Rockdale, and that's why I say it was important to find out electricity at Corsicana. Digihost 78th, and Iris 100%, Bit Digital 100% as well, Argo 135, Bitdeer 153, and DMG 164, Sphere surprisingly 169, and the Bitfarms 170%. Okay, and then you can see how far the miners are away from their 52-week highs here, with Bitcoin being close to that, only away 5.2%. Cypher away from 10% of that. So they recently reached their new 52-week high, looks like this past week, I think. And then Cleanspark being away 14.2%, and then DMG 23%. And you can see how everybody else stacks up here. Okay, now looking at the weekly chart here, how the miners did against Bitcoin this past week. We can actually see that Argo, actually because of Thursday, sorry, they had a huge spike in their price on Thursday. Argo's up 33% on the week. Then we got BitDigital being up 20%. BitDigital obviously provided news that they might be getting a contract extended to 100 million. So that's obviously, I think, what is driving the stock there. DMG up 14, Sphere up 12, Cypher up 11%, Hive up 10%, Bitcoin being up 10% as well. So all those miners have done better than Bitcoin here on the 1 week, and then everybody else here has done worse. Hut being down 3%, Bitdeer down 2%, and you guys can see the rest of them there. Going to the 2 week or the 4 weeks chart here, we can see at this point, Bitcoin's only up 2%. We got Cypher doing the best here, up 67%, followed by TeraWolf up 28%, then by Cleanspark here. And we got BitDigital up 6%, DMG up 3%, and Bitdeer up 4%, and everybody else is actually negative here. And now with the worst performer here being Sphere 3D, being down 24% from 4 weeks ago. Go to 8 weeks, things definitely changed there. You can see Cleanspark from 8 weeks ago is still up 156%. Bitcoin's only up 48%. So at this point, we got Cypher up 92%. So they're beating Bitcoin right now. You got TeraWolf beating Bitcoin, and then pretty much everybody else is underperforming Bitcoin, with Sphere 3D being down 21, Digihost being down 16, Mawson down 33, Stronghold down 8, and Bitdeer down 8 as well. And then going to the 12-week chart, we can still see here that at this point, Bitcoin's up 63%, Cleanspark's up 108%, and everybody else has basically underperformed Bitcoin here in the last 12 weeks, with the worst performer being Mawson down 53% so far from 12 weeks ago. Okay, so I always like to take a look at that just to see how things are stacking up on things. I always like to look at this table as well, just to see how we're doing week over week. And we obviously had two good weeks here. This week is obviously a little bit better than the prior week for the miners, but we're seeing kind of up and down more so than we have in the past. But we'll see how things go forward. So that is it for my presentation for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So let's get into the Q&A side of things. We'll see if you guys have any questions or anything like that, and then we'll call it a day. So let me get to my screen here. Q&A. Perfect. I'll go back over here so I can see your guys' comments, and if you guys have any questions on those things. Let's see here. Okay, so I think we have a question here. Hi, if we have an early top, i.e. left translated cycle where BTC peaks, say 140,000 around the summer, and then it enters a bear market, will miners not reach their full potential, i.e. 2-3x from here? Potentially, right? That is a good question. If that does happen, we could see where Bitcoin goes to 140, but this is going to be basically 2x from where it's at right now. The miners at that point might only go up half of what we were thinking, right? So that is a good point, something that we'll have to obviously keep an eye on. But I don't think it's going to top out at 140 in the summer. It'd be too early, and then going into a bear market that quick. I don't think so that's going to happen, but we'll see. Let's see here. Let's see here. Where do you see Cleanspark drop to on Monday? Some are saying they could go down to like $16, $15. Who do we have? Mike, I can't remember his name now. His last name. Wow, I'm terrible with names. We had Mike on, Mike Alfred. There we go. Mike Alfred on the Twitter Space this afternoon, which went from 2 o'clock to 7 p.m. He was thinking it might actually kind of have bottomed out already on Thursday at 17 and bounce back up after that. But he says he's going to be buying if it does dip. So we'll see where it goes. I'm not too worried about it. I think the short term is going to be some pain, obviously. Let's see. What is gigawatt capacity for Corsicana? So that's 1,000 megawatts, basically. That gives them a lot of growth there for their operations and just building out infrastructure, I guess, in general. So that's really good there. Let's see here. Best books ever read. Bitcoin Standard was one of them. Another one was 4-Hour Work Week. Good to Great. What was the other one? How to Win Friends and Influence People was another good one there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was some of the ones. There's a bunch of other ones that I've read. I've read Elon Musk's biography. Also, not Tim Cook's. Steve Jobs' biography. I've read a lot of biographies, and also on business and things like that that are really good. But those are the ones that are coming off to my mind right now. Sebastian, do you think the miners will drop at the halving before gaining the momentum, or they will start shooting at halving? Bitfarms, Cleanspark, IREN. I mean, they're kind of going up right now as it is. As long as Bitcoin, I think, stays where it's at or goes up higher, they'll probably follow suit because at that point, they're going to be profitable, possibly even after the halving event. Whereas before, we were thinking Bitcoin being at 40,000 or around there, some of the miners were not going to be profitable at that point. So we'll have to see how things play out. But I think right now, it's kind of being revalued with Bitcoin price being up much higher than where it's been in the past cycles. Could the management of Cleanspark be in trouble for insider traders? I don't think so, right? We talked about Zach selling last week, not this past week, but the week prior to that. He sold because he did a 10B51 or something like that plan, where they basically set up a sell trade 6, 9, 8 months ago, whenever it was. So if he did that, and if Matt did the same thing, then that wouldn't be insider trading, right? Because those were already pre-planned sales. So I don't think that would fall under that part. Do you have any opinion on MicroStrategy being overvalued currently? I do think it's overvalued a little bit. I think there might be a little pullback. It seems to front run Bitcoin a little bit. So anytime Bitcoin gets moving, MicroStrategy front runs it really hard, and then it kind of pulls back a little bit to where it really should be. So it might be a little bit overvalued, but it still could go up much higher from where it's at right now before it pulls back and then come back down to reality and then follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin continues to go up. It might go up as well, or at least I believe it will go up if that happens. Question, do you know what made different miners peak different times last cycle, i.e. Cleanspark dipped early like February 2021 and others were still peaking in November 2021? Well, the big thing here was with Cleanspark, right? They got in basically on the bull run. They weren't a miner until actually January of 2021. They bought a facility that had like 100 petahash at that point, and they were just building out through that year. So they weren't even like, I wouldn't say, they were very early at the bull stage part of it, right? But they weren't as massive of a player as they are right now. Other miners, we saw also a lot of the miners that we discussed here, Bitfarms, Riot, Hive, some of the other ones also actually peaked right around the time Bitcoin peaked in, when was that? April, I want to say, right? When it peaked in at 64,000, then we had the double top later on at 69,000. The only one that followed suit with Bitcoin price going up was Marathon, surprisingly. So there's only one. The rest were actually still kind of going up, but they didn't peak again after the April rally at that point. Riot price prediction at the end of the year. It all depends on how well they can build out Corsicana, right? And what's their uptime there. That's one of the big things I've been saying is that's going to detail as far as what we can possibly get for them. But I think they should be much higher than where they are right now, especially if Bitcoin starts ripping, 200, 150,000 potentially. We don't know, but it would be much higher at that point. And as long as they can provide investors with information that they are operating much more efficiently there, much more uptime, those all things will help. Question, approaching the halving and post-halving, what are the overall historical trends for crypto mining stocks typically? Last cycle, we had more miners in that space at that time. The miners prior to that, a year prior to the halving, were actually going down in price, while Bitcoin was kind of flat, going up a little bit. It was up like, I think, 20% year over year from the date of the halving, while the miners were down 40, 50, 60% at that point. So it's a totally different cycle that we had last time. Right now, we were seeing, obviously, Cleanspark's up 700 some percent in the last 52 weeks from its bottom. Other miners are up, also doing better than Bitcoin itself. We haven't seen that before, so it's a new cycle this time around. It's completely different from what we've seen in the past. So it's kind of hard to see what's going to happen forward this cycle, whereas last cycle, the miners kind of traded sideways, maybe down a little bit for like the first 4 to 8 weeks, and then they started to go back up, with Bitcoin going up in value as well. Let's see. Any thoughts on CORZ and new miners? Are you talking about CORZ or are you talking about BitDeer? CORZ doesn't have any new miners, but I think CORZ was buying the newer generation miners, the S21s, I believe, right? I mean, those are fine, but as far as maybe BitDeers, if that's what you're asking, don't know too much about them yet. They're still not in full production yet, and we haven't really seen any data on them yet. So we'll see. The question, hey Seb, what's your price prediction for HUT 8 if BTC is at 100,000? So that would be, what is that, 30% increase, right? 40% increase, something like that from where it's at right now. Would guess possibly go higher, but it depends on how well they execute, right? Right now, the stock is not being valued at all for their Bitcoin mining operations, which those have been lackluster in the past, right? And they haven't really stated anything as far as major growth going forward. They're evaluating it. They're waiting for possibly cheaper miners to come on the line and things like that. They do have infrastructure in place where they could possibly put them in, but they haven't done anything. I think if they commit to doing something sizable, I think that stock would get rewarded for it, because right now, I mean, you look at their HODL position, what they have, and the value of the company, it's not far off from their market cap. So I don't think they're being valued on their operations right now. I think they're being valued more on their HODL. Let's see here. Why did HUT 8 moon so much on December 27th for such a short period when BTC was only 43? Not sure. Could have been just a rotation out of things. It could have also been with them merging with US Bitcoin at that point, right? A lot of maybe promises there at that point. I think that's kind of why it was going up. And then after that, I think in January, we got the short report from one of the short sellers about all this speculative stuff that's happening in the company, or what's happening in the company. And then we had, obviously, the CEO, Jimmy, get fired, and everything kind of fell apart for him there. And then we had Asher Ganut, the new CEO, really not articulate maybe precisely as far as what they're wanting to do with their self-mining, right? He was kind of, not avoiding it, but he was kind of letting people know that they weren't really focused on that as much as they were focusing on maybe other aspects of the business. So I think that also created the stock going down. Let's see. Are there enough Bitcoin miners available in the market for Cleanspark to spend $800 million? Well, it wouldn't be all on miners, right? They would have to be also on an infrastructure operations side of things as well. So I think there's still plenty. I mean, they have the option to get to, let me see. I don't know for sure if they have the option to get to 50. I know for sure that they have the ability to get to 32 exahash. But I don't know if on top of that, if they have the option to buy more miners at that price. I would have to look it up. I don't remember exactly. But there's plenty of miners out there, especially since they're planning to grow to 50 exahash in 2025, right now at least. That's the roadmap. Let's see here. What odds to place that Cleanspark announces that what they plan on doing with the ATM next week? Yeah, I mean, those might be pretty good odds, actually. Last time they were announced an ATM was January 5th, and I think on January 8th, they provided their buying miners. So that was pretty quick. So we might see something this week, this coming week. We'll probably know more down the road. But if we get something this week, it will be great. Any educated guess on how Cleanspark will perform Monday? It might go down, might go up. Mike Alfred's on the space that he was on with me earlier said that he doesn't see Cleanspark possibly going down below 18. But if it does happen, he'll be buying it. So we may have a lot of support there. We'll have to see. So some are saying that we could go down to like $16, maybe 15 at the most, but it wouldn't last very long. Let's see. Do you think Wolf has more room to run in the short term, or is it overbought? I think it still has a little bit more room to run. I think it's coming up to being just fairly valued based on what I'm seeing with it. So I think it still has a little bit more room to run. Please talk about Hive. Well, what would you like to know about Hive? Hive has been probably one of the longest public miners out there that's been available since I think 2017. Potentially, if they're not the oldest one in here, there might be another one, but I'm thinking that they're like the oldest one here because I remember investing in Hive in 2017, 2018. But Hive was doing really, really well when they had the Ethereum miners going. That stopped obviously in 2022 in the fall when Ethereum switched over to proof of stake at that point. And then they lost a lot of revenue from that. And they just had a hard time transitioning over to growing their Bitcoin mining, right? Changing over their ASICs to newer ones. But they've been doing a pretty good job. And the only thing is that they've said is that they want to maintain a 1% network hash rate of, they want to maintain 1% of the network hash rate. So basically, if Bitcoin's at 600 exahash network hash rate, right? They want to be basically at 6 exahash. That would be 1% of that. All right, so they're happy with that, and I think investors are looking obviously for more growth, and that's why the stock has been underperforming. I sold the stock, when was it, November, December? I can't remember exactly when, and that was because of that, because I just didn't see the growth happening there, and I got out of that one and moved into Cleanspark, Bitfarms, and a little bit more IREN. So that's how I kind of played. I'm like, if Hive's not growing, there's really no reason to be in the stock anymore. I held on to it through 2021, like a lot of people did, with thinking that Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000. It never happened, right? We topped out at 69, and I held it all the way down, and then, so lesson learned there. Let's see. What's your top 3 undervalued stocks in your opinion? I think Bitfarms, you get IREN, Cypher, and possibly Wolf in there as well. And then you got Core, but Core is obviously getting out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They're out of it, but I think people are just a little cautious with it because they were in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So I think people are just waiting maybe for a quarter or two of their financials to see how they're actually doing after that. Plus, we have the warrants as well in there. So there's just a lot of questions with Core right now. Let's see. What did you study to have a big student loan still paying off? Yeah, I'm still paying it off. I'm hoping that after this cycle, I won't have to. I can pay it off at that point. But I studied computer information systems, so I got a bachelor's degree in that, and then I got a master's in business management. Why would Riot Jason make a press release stating what he just sent you? Don't you think it would be good for investors? Yeah, I wish they would, right? It would definitely make it easier, I guess you could say. But I guess he just saw that I questioned it, and he was able to provide the information. Maybe nobody else is questioning it. I don't know. But yeah, maybe they will provide something on that. And I think maybe they did provide it someplace, but I just missed it, right? So that's maybe why I'm questioning it here, but it's already out there someplace. So maybe that's why. Let's see. Will you short the miners on the way down? I don't like to short stocks. I don't like to beat them down when they're actually, going down. I know that there's ways to make money on shorting and things like that, but I don't know. We'll see. I've never shorted stocks in the past. Will I try it this time? Maybe. I don't know, but I don't think so. It's not my style, right? I want to support companies when they're doing down, when they're doing great or going up. And then if I start transitioning out of those, I'll transition out of them, and I probably won't short them. I'll get into something else for the time being, but I'll keep an eye on the miners still, and we'll see where things go from there. Any updates from Cleanspark management on how they will be using the 800 million? No, nothing yet. That's what we're waiting for on this next week. Hopefully we'll get some information from that as far as what they're doing. Did Cleanspark get back to you? Could it be possibly that they may buy more machines and inform the market on Monday? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case. I'm still waiting. I haven't heard anything back. I'm guessing that they're probably deluged with, people asking them questions and everything else. So we'll see what they come up with on Monday, Tuesday. Maybe we'll get some press releases. We'll see. It'd be nice, though. I think it would definitely help the stock from possibly bleeding more after the week that they've had. Let's see. Let's see. Core Scientific received new miners. When did they receive the new miners? I might have missed that. Okay. What do you see as the biggest catalyst for the price of BTC over the next 6 to 9 months, other than the halving itself? The spot Bitcoin ETFs. I mean, those things are sucking out Bitcoin like nobody's business, right? So I think that's going to continue to drive it. As long as we see those inflows happening in there, that'll be the big driver there. Okay. Thoughts on Bitfarms compared to other miners right now, both price and fundamentals. Price, I think they're way undervalued from where they should be. And obviously, fundamentals are fine. Their uptime is great. Their efficiency is great. They're building out, which is what we want to see. It's just that we have the bad optics right now with the ATM and then the CEO leaving as well, right? It's not a great time. And that's kind of what's driving the stock down, possibly more, having more pressure on it, right? I think the ATM more so is having pressure on the stock being down. That's really what's happening there. I think once they get fully diluted on the ATM or use it all up, I think at that point the stock should start going back up. Let's see here. Thank you for the video. You're very welcome. What will happen to my shares if a miner gets bought? Will they be sold for cash, or will it get shares of the acquiring company? I think at that point, I think you would get shares of the new company based on the percentage that you had in the old company or the value of that. So I think that's how it would work. But a lot of people sell at that point. If right, somebody goes in to offer a company 20-30% premium on it, that's usually kind of where people go in and then they start selling the stock anyways, unless you get shares in the other company. Any information on Bitfarms CEO? Nothing yet. We haven't heard anything new from it. We're hoping to get maybe some update when they provide the production update, maybe on Monday. I think they're usually pretty quick to provide those. So maybe we'll get some information on Monday. We'll have to see. Let's see. Bitfarms seems undervalued. Yes, I agree. They are undervalued right now. Will the March miner production numbers be available before market open on Monday? Some of them might be. I think Bitfarms usually is like one of the first ones to provide it. Cleanspark is usually like the first day or the second day. Some other miners are also usually pretty quick at that point. So we'll start getting those obviously possibly on Monday, and then we'll get them on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll keep getting them. What is the price prediction for Riot? It all depends on how well they build out Corsicana, how well they run the machines there, as far as uptime. All that thing really matters. And we'll just have to see on that. Once we get maybe an update, once that energized, what's their hash rate there, then we maybe can run some numbers on it. But right now, I think the stock is undervalued because of their operations at Rockdale. We've seen a lot of curtailment there, right? It has been great. See, question. What do you think Grayscale's motive for selling lately is, with BTC expected to move up? Something a bit shady. I think you're talking about Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. If they have outflows, right, people are going from their Grayscale Bitcoin Trust over to the ETFs, which have lower fees and things like that. That's kind of why you're seeing, I think, the BTC being depleted out of that. Let me see. Question: if you can pick one going all in, Bitfarms or that's one thing I don't like to do. I don't like to go all in on one thing. I like to look at where the data is kind of guiding me, right? So metrics, things like that I've looked over the last 2 years have guided me to Cleanspark as being number one. It has kind of worked out well so far. My number two is Bitfarms, so I'm kind of plowing into Bitfarms a little bit more right now because I think it's undervalued. And then IREN is the third one. That's kind of the way I would go for it. I mean, right now, it's anybody's guess as far as which one's going to outperform the others, especially the ones that are undervalued potentially. Question: did Cleanspark just buy 1 billion plus BTC? Where are you getting the 1 billion from BTC? Because of the 500 million and the 800. I don't think so. We've never seen them buy Bitcoin, right? They've always been the ones that get rewards of Bitcoin and then they sell it usually. But recently they've been hodling it, but I've never seen them buy Bitcoin actually. So I wouldn't expect that to happen. Let me see. Question number 2. Would Cleanspark be better off buying BTC before buying any smaller miners straight out? No, because I think they're being valued on their uptime, their efficiency, their growth, right? They're not being really valued on, they're being valued some on their HODL, but not a massive HODL, right? I mean, you got companies like Marathon, Riot, that have a much higher HODL position, but you haven't seen the great growth or the price appreciation and percentage-wise in the last 52 weeks, I guess, as compared to Cleanspark. And Cleanspark has done that because of uptime, efficiency, operations, growth. Those are all things that are driving the stock right there. So I don't think there's any really need for them to hodl more or buy Bitcoin. I think that would be actually to their downfall potentially. Well, not to the complete downfall, but to the downfall in the stock price potentially, because investors are looking for growth from them. Now I'm trying to find another question here. Okay, how long do you see it's taking Bitcoin to peak? 12 months again, or have we front run and it'll be closer to 9 months? Yeah, that's a great question. We've talked about this a little bit before, but it could be that we actually do, maybe instead of having a 12 to 18 month cycle this time around after the halving event, it might be a shorter cycle, right? It could be 9 to 12 months. It could be 9 to 15 months. We just don't know. But it could also be one of those cycles where Bitcoin continues to go up because the spot Bitcoin ETF is just sucking up all the Bitcoin all the time and having the price go up. We don't know. We'll have to see. Sebastian, wouldn't Cleanspark be better off doing primary share offerings, since that would be less dilutive and still accomplish what they want? They would get equity coverage and more fund participation. Based on that, wouldn't that also entail having to give a discount price on the stock at that point, right? So you're kind of diluting it anyways at, or giving a discount of 20%, right? Typically is what we've seen. So I don't know if it's either or, I think. It doesn't really matter. I think maybe the ATM is probably easier. But we saw the ATM here recently, the 500 million, get announced January 5th, and through March 27th, they used it all up. 500 million gone, right, in 3 months. And during that same time frame, we saw the stock actually go up in value, right? And that's because of their, obviously, operations, their growth, and everything else. So it's not always that bad if they can pull it off properly. Which is better, miner, Wolf, or Cypher? Appreciate all your insights. I think they're both great. The only thing is, obviously, with Wolf, they got more debt than Cypher. So I would say Cypher at this point right now. And Cypher actually has a little bit of a hodl. Okay. Thoughts on Sato mining? I don't cover them. I don't know that much about them. I know they're one of the smaller miners, and they've been obviously trying to grow their user base, get more attention and things like that. It's going to be tough for them, obviously, to get to anywhere any of these other miners are at, but we'll see. Okay. Let's see. Other than Bitcoin price and ETFs, who will benefit after the halving? Miners will benefit after the halving as well. So that's something to look forward to. Altcoins, possibly as well. Okay, I'm trying to catch up with questions here. Okay, how is the halving good for miners? Why do they go up? They go up mainly because Bitcoin price goes up. That's the driving catalyst there at that point. And also because once Bitcoin goes up to, say, 150,000 or higher, their profit margins go from being right now like 40%, 30%, 50%, whatever those are, all the way up to as high as 90%. So that's where that price appreciation really happens, because of that profit margin with Bitcoin price going up. Are you currently invested in any other sectors beside crypto and the miners? I'm still a little bit invested in Rivian, right? Just as a reminder that I want to get into it possibly later on. I think Rivian is a longer term play, looking like maybe more like a 5 to 10, 15-year play. Whereas the miners, I think, are a little bit shorter time frame period, and I actually had more shares of Rivian. I sold those, and I got more into the miners as well. When do we expect Bitfarm at 4 approximately in your opinion? Also next week they promised to update us on the miners progress. Yeah, so I think right now they should be like between $4 and $6 to be fairly valued, right? So they're definitely undervalued from where they are right now. But yeah, I think once the ATM is all used up there and they're actually starting to grow beyond the 6.5 exahash, and we'll see where they're at the end of this month. Which if they get to like 7.5 or 8 exahash, that'd be fantastic. That'd be nice growth there. And then we could possibly see the stock possibly going back up. But then we also have this CEO thing hanging over us right now. So once we have that information and then we know who the CEO is, maybe at that point the stock also, picks back up. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to find questions. Let's see. Okay. Real Gary Gensler, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see. Question: the discount wouldn't be too much in this case. Plus, if a new fund get in with a discount, they would be incentivized to own more stock down the road. Right? If things can, there's always a case for that. But obviously, they're evaluating it. And I'm not a financial expert in any of these things as far as when it comes to shelf offerings or ATMs or anything like that. They have people for this, and they obviously have to do what's best in the interest of shareholders, right? So unless they can get really favorable terms from the shelf offering, then maybe the ATM does make more sense. What do you think of ADA and XRP? So ADA, I've had ADA since 2020. Yeah, I think I had it since 2020. I held on to it through 2021. I should have sold it. Lesson learned there again. But I don't know what's going to happen with that one. I haven't really tracked it, what's going on there. If it gets back to where I bought it at, I'm selling it. I'm done with altcoins. I've learned my lesson on those things. Same thing with XRP. XRP I never really got because they've always said that they wanted to be the replacement for, what is that banking platforms that they use? I'm trying to blank right now. But they wanted to basically have banks use them instead of the Swift network. There we go. So I never thought how would it be beneficial to banks? Why don't the banks could just do their own coins and subvent XRP? It just didn't make any sense to me why they would do that. Let's see. Questions. What altcoins are you in right now? Well, Bitfarms on an altcoin, but you got Ethereum, ADA, HBAR, I think I have in there. There's something else in there I think I have. Dogecoin. I have Doge, and what's the other one? DigiHost, I think. I can't remember which one it is. It's in my intro video every time, but I still hold on to the stuff. I'm like negative on most of the stuff here on the altcoins except for Ethereum. Everything else I'm down on, so I'm just gonna hold on to it until I start seeing green on it and I'm gonna sell. Let's see here. If you had to add a fourth miner to your portfolio, who would it be? It would probably be Cypher, I think, right now. But that might change. Obviously, if we get like Core announcing a quarter or two of their data, financials, and things are looking pretty good there, I think that's the one that's really undervalued compared to where they possibly should be. But because the bankruptcy, again, is the reason why, right? They're out of it, but there's still some overhang from that. Do you think if Cleanspark 800 million to acquire another miner? No, I don't think it makes sense for them to acquire another miner. I think they have done really well buying just the buildings or the infrastructure from other miners, like they did with Mawson, where they bought Sandersville, right? They built that out. They've done a great job there. And it just makes no sense to buy out another miner and possibly their debt and their whatever issues they've had with their infrastructure and things like that. I think they're just looking to buy buildings right now, buildings, land, things like that. What is your take on the EV sector? Any predictions for NEO? I don't know what's going to happen there. I think right now with the interest rates being relatively high for new cars or used cars in general, I think once interest rates kind of maybe fall down a little bit, that might help the EV market at that point. But that's still possibly sometime in summertime, fall time. We don't know when Gary Gensler is going to, not Gary Gensler, but Papa Powell is going to start reducing interest rates. Jay, I think we already covered this question. If BTC has an early peak, i.e. left, translated cycle to say 148,000 by summer, this will not leave enough time for the miners to report good earnings, etc., and therefore miners won't do as well. Yeah, pretty much. Right. It's just going to be, I mean, there's some hype around that. If Bitcoin price going up as well, that's enough usually to drive the prices up before even you get earnings on those things. So it's going to be tricky. I don't think that's going to happen, like I said before, but we'll see. Let's see here. Okay. I think we are, let me see. Oh, one more here. Two more, sorry. Missed this one. How high could IREN go for this bull cycle? Depending where Bitcoin goes, but you could definitely see it going up at least another 5 to 10x potentially from where it's at right now. Easy, right? And then depending if Bitcoin goes much higher than we expect, well, it could go up even higher. And then also I think if they start reporting quarterly results, right, instead of the every 6 months results, that would help as well. So we'll see. And as long as it can grow to about 20 exahash by the end of the year, that would be fantastic. Here. Do you think the dilution affects future prices, i.e. Cleanspark diluted 500% since 2021? Can we expect diminished returns, or do you find the improved hash rate makes the dilution irrelevant for pricing? Yeah, I kind of think that the growth that they're seeing, the hash rate growth, negates kind of the dilution that we've seen here. When did I do this? I think it was in 2022. My price target at that point was $70 for Cleanspark, right? Kind of like that was my conservative estimate as far as where the stock could go. Right now, where the stock is at right now, their hash rate and everything else, the revenue potential that's there with Bitcoin going up to potentially more, I think 70 is still very conservative, and I think we could be going much higher than that. So I think it's definitely something that's on investors' minds, right? The dilution is, I'm going to be getting less, but as long as you have better growth because of it, I think it kind of negates some of that concern there. Let's see. I like that. You need to make Sebastian swag. Depends on where Bitcoin goes. Yeah. All right. That is it, guys. I think I've covered everything. We got all the questions answered. Questions. Yeah, I think we got all the questions answered. So tomorrow, obviously, not going to be doing anything. Interesting. Let me clear my throat. There you go. All right, guys. That's it. Thank you so much for coming in on a Saturday. We went, 45 minutes here and everything else. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll see what happens. Obviously, on Monday, we'll start getting some updates from the miners as far as production for March. Wow, we're getting into April. What if some of the miners do like some April Fool's jokes on us on Monday? Huh? Interesting. What if somebody comes out there buying another miner and that's an April Fool's joke? We'll see. I don't think they're going to do that. Usually we see that with companies like from Google doing something silly on their site or something like that. But I don't think we'll see that from the miners. But nonetheless, thanks again so much for coming in to watch these videos, to spending time here with me, to chatting. And we'll see you guys in April. We're getting closer to the Halving event. That's exciting. All right. I'll see you guys later.